Okay, this is my comeback video to YouTube. I've been off YouTube as of late, so I had a lot of stuff going on. I'm not going to go into that. However, new apartment. So, since I had to get a 2-bedroom, I decided to take the extra bedroom and convert it into my own little training area, my own little gym or whatever. Since the building next to what I was going to use for my school burned down, part of the drama that was causing all the chaos recently, well, I've decided to take a handful of my really dedicated students who have been training in parking lots, public parks, in our homes. You know, we've basically been doing a lot of training in my living room and everything else. I decided to take the spare bedroom, move all the junk out of here because I was using it as a junk room, and convert it into my own little personal training area. Now, there's certain advantages and disadvantages to this. For one, I can't have a really large class size. Nobody's paying me at the moment. We're just training to be training since the building's burned down. Well, actually, the building next to it burned down. It's got a lot of smoke and water damage. But the good part to this is that since it's so small, we get a lot of training for fighting in enclosed spaces. And since I said I'm coming back to YouTube, I figured this would be a great way to address one of my more important points. The comparison between fine motor skills and gross motor skills when you're talking about fighting. I always hear the combatives guys arguing about how adrenaline dump hits and you can't do the fine motor skills and all this other stuff. Well, here's the problem. You can. The adrenaline dump fine motor skill goes out the window. Gross motor skills, the only way to do anything myth, is completely bullshit. Well, not completely bullshit. There's certain room for adaptation of technique in a fight. Things change. You adapt. If, a person steps to the side or changes the angle of their attack, you have to move to adapt as well. So not everything's going to be picture perfect or pretty or conform to the academic form that you're taught in training. However, the idea that the principles, the mechanics behind gross motor skills goes out the window simply because adrenaline hits your system, no. To do this, I'm going to point something out to you. I want to show you the difference between a gross motor skill hook and a fine motor skill hook. A fine motor skill hook, seen from the side. I'm going to take my fighting stance. Whatever fighting stance I want, it can be this, it can be this. I prefer the keeping my hands in close for defense. Now, when I throw my hook, there's two ways to do this. I'm going to do with the lead hook specifically. Now, what's going to happen is when we're talking gross motor skill movement, when I swing my hook, it's either going to come out one of two ways. It's either going to be, or it's going to be, the only difference is keeping your arm in tight or letting it go. When you just throw it out there wild, it's what they call a haymaker. Now, fine motor skill hook is a little bit different because it's going to look considerably different. Now, I'm going to go back and do that again. Let me point something out to you. When I'm coming at you with that fine motor skill hook, first thing you notice is my footwork. My feet right here, these little white socks, which I wore intentionally because black mats, black outfit. Alright, now when I step forward, my weight shifts. I'm not keeping my foot aligned like this to step forward. I'm stepping at an angle, so the attack changes. The hook is a curve, it's a rotation. So I'm changing the angle of the attack. As I'm coming in, now bear in mind, as I'm coming in, this foot moves forward. As it moves forward and lands on the ball of the foot, my heel never touches the ground. I'm pushing off with this leg, transferring the motion from the flat foot, the heel to the ground here, to coming up on the balls of my feet as I'm pushing my body forward. As my body is pushing forward, my knee is bending to drop my weight. My hips are turning into the strike. So as I'm bringing my lower body into it, my foundation is rotating into the strike. The hook, of course, is almost virtually a jab because as I am, I'm changing the rotation of my body. But as I am, the hook is coming here. And as it does, the last movement I do, not only that slight snap, is a slight snapping of the wrist here. So it's just that generates, that whips all the power into a single strike. It changes the angle of the attack. Instead of me coming at you directly this way, with jabs, crosses, wild hooks, I'm changing the angle of my attack. Fine motor skill. As I'm here and the attack comes, see my point? That whole rotation, that whole movement is based on fine motor skills, on getting my foundation underneath me, positioned and driving behind the punch. It starts with my feet, works on the transfer of energy through my knees. That rotation is used to push the rotation of a larger object, i.e. my hips, into the strike. When the hips move, the upper body turns. And as it turns, the arm is driven at an angle and then snapped at the last moment to drive my knuckles into the point of impact. Now this puts a lot of mechanics, a lot of moving parts behind the strike. This moving part is to get momentum, to generate power. See, you're talking about mass times density, mass plus density times momentum. Alright, if an object is denser, harder, then it takes more momentum to get it moving. It also takes more momentum to slow it down. So as all these portions are moving, what starts as a small rotation from a smaller portion of the body is all mechanically driven. Now, some people say, well, on gross motor skill, when adrenaline hits, you won't have those fine motor skills. No, I won't have the control over my fine motor skills. Adrenaline enhances your the amount of oxygen in your system. It also speeds up the amount of signals going through your cells, through your nervous system. That being done, yeah, you lose a function of control because everything's moving faster. The problem is, when everything's moving faster, you have to remember, and all my veterans will know this saying, including all my active duty guys, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Think about that. A slow, smooth movement, that controlled rotation of the body through using fine motor skills, is fast because you're not economy of motion. You're not sending in all these gross motions. You're not flailing your arms because gross motor skills. You're attacking through a specific rotation of certain parts of the body in a specific sequence to generate power. That angle can change from high to low. You can change the rotation to a back fist, to a knife hand strike, to a jab. But it all comes down to the mechanics and the rotation of the body. Fine motor skills, if trained continually, even when the adrenaline hits, yes, they will look considerably sloppier than the pretty form taught academically in a martial arts school. However, it'll still have the impact, and once those fine motor skills are applied, even if they're applied in a hasty, sloppy manner, that basic principle allows the individual, the person using the strike, to apply the mechanics behind that strike. Like I said, it might not be as pretty, might not look the same, might not be academically plausible to what you were taught in a martial arts school. And yes, I say academic. I use the term academics because someone teaching you to fight is someone teaching you. It's learning. Experiencing the fight is considerably different. Alright, there you go. There's my take on the gross motor skill, fine motor skill argument. Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So it's